Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you might happen to be. Welcome once again to Anime Octane, the show in which we, the folks from Nerd Caliber, talk about a recent piece of anime entertainment. And we look at it in depth. We talk about what's good about it, what's bad, what worked, what didn't work, themes, messages, tones, overall aspects to the property. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the 2021 reboot of the anime Shaman King, or at least the amount of it, the first season, as they're calling it, that's on Netflix. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, doing a bunch of other things. Joining me tonight is our pretty much regular on this show, Byron, if you would.
Hey guys, Byron Mcneil, aka Byron D0 on multiple facets of the internet, contributing writer for Nerd Caliber, um, social media consultant, video content creator. And speaking of video content, I have my own channel on YouTube, which is Byron D0. If check out my stuff if you like it, give me a sub. Hoping to do a Patreon by the end of the year. We'll see how that turns out.
Cool. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing that. So with this show, since we do go into depth about the good, the bad, and the ugly, there are spoilers. We have to talk about everything that happens in the show, or many things that happen in the show, to be able to talk about what we like about things and what we don't like. So that means we're going to be spoiling Shaman King. Certainly the 2021 reboot, and I guess that technically means we're spoiling the original 2001 version.
To a certain point.
To a certain point. Well, yeah, up to episode 13. About a third of the way through the run. But yeah, so that's your warning, folks. We will be spoiling this. If you haven't seen it and you don't like spoilers, you probably shouldn't be watching. All of our other, right now, one other viewer, I think, or two other viewers. But if you don't mind spoilers or you have seen it, hang around. Offer your opinion. Tell us what you think about Shaman King or about our opinions about Shaman King. So, what is Shaman King? It is an anime, as I said, currently running on Netflix here in the US. It started in April in Japan and will be ending its 30 episode run in just a couple of weeks. Episode 28 airs Thursday. And Netflix started running it in August and is dividing it up into seasons. So what we're talking about is the first 13 episode season. It is based on a 2001 anime, and
Even an earlier manga.
And an earlier manga, both of which were very, very popular. The gist of the story is our hero, right here,
Yo Asakura,
is a 13-year-old. He's a first year in middle school, and he is a shaman from a family of shamans. And they take a fairly traditional, to start with, approach on what a shaman is. It's somebody who interacts with spirits, either as a spirit medium, as somebody who tries to get spirits to intercede with, people, to cure illness or whatever. Or in this case, what they consider the highest level of interaction, allowing a spirit to possess you. And that gives you the spirit's abilities. So in that case, it's fairly accurate to the concept of what shamanism has been over the course of history. And from there, it obviously goes off into an anime direction. Yo finds out that there is something called the Shaman King, which is sort of the most powerful shaman who has the ability to be possessed by, control, work with whichever way they want to do it. The Great Spirit, the most powerful spirit. And he eventually finds out that the way the Shaman King is determined is essentially a tournament. It's something called the Shaman Fight. And the show sets up his development and growth and eventual participation in this shaman fight It's called Shaman King after all. Um, the original studio was Zebek. The current studio is Bridge. Um, uh, Bridge is probably best known for Fairy Tale, and a few other things, but most of the other things are, you know, kind of bordering on etchy, to
Yeah.
in some case extremely etchy. Zebek is, aside from Shaman King and a few other things, like 100% etchy. They did Keijo, so if you don't know Keijo, go look it up.
What?
It but
Your
it
favorite Rodney?
it's that and more. Um, it's an amazing, ridiculous amount of ridiculousness. But both those studios actually have things that are much more serious in their canon, just not common. And both Zebek, when they did the original Shaman King, and Bridge now, they both have some more serious things. So, with that, and we didn't get into any of the particular details of the plot yet because that would be something that we might reveal over the course of talking about things we liked or didn't like. But we get into the first subject, which is like. So, Byron, what did you like about this? What worked for you? What do you think they were aiming for and pretty successfully pulled off?
Well, the thing they were definitely aiming for was to tell a more complete story than what was told in the original anime, because halfway through the production, it went into filler territory.
Of the original.
Yes,
Yeah.
it went into filler territory, and the ending was a lot more. Well, the ending was pretty slapdash by comparison. So I like
Well, let's say we think the ending will be that way. Again, we're only 13 episodes in for this first season. We don't
this is
know
true.
what the ending of this season will look like. But
This is fair.
based on what you're
What we've
describing and
seen.
the fact that the first run was 54 episodes and this is only 30,
Yeah.
they cut it down almost in half. So,
Well, the manga was nowhere near done at that point.
yeah.
In fact, it had gone on hiatus a couple of times from what I hear. Um, I like the cast. Like Yo's Yo's a cool, chill protagonist. I mean, he's very lazy, but his heart's in the right place. Um, Ryu was like the star of the show. Every time he was on, he made that show so much more fun. Him and horror as well.
On your screen, that's the guy with the, at this point in his development, twin pompadours in the shape of hearts.
Yes, his ever evolving coif. Um, Also, I say I like I like parts of Rin. Like I like his determination. I liked how he even though he was rough around the edges, he had noble aspirations. I like the ending theme. I mean, the opening theme. I mean, because I don't know who sang it, but she kind of reminded me of Megumi Hashiabara.
I wonder if I have it up here. Keep talking. I'll see if I can
Yeah,
find it.
but yeah, it like the intro gave me that early aughts anime feel. Like I felt like I was watching fan subs again.
Guess what? You nailed it.
Woo!
Song is called Soul Salvation, and yes, Megami Hayashibara.
Yes, she was like, yeah, I remember there she was like the go to like anime intro singer. Oh, she's also a legendary Seiyu, but she's known just as well for singing,
Cool.
and it's good to see that she still has it. Um, I wouldn't say that like there are a lot of things I love. I don't have a lot of dislikes either. Other thing I'm just kind of about on it though. So I'll save that for the second half.
All right. I'm going to say we're going to get into the second half pretty quickly.
Mm.
So, if you've watched this show regularly, you will remember 2 episodes ago we covered the also Netflix reimagining is a better word than reboot of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the CGI one. And at that time, I made the statement that I've got to couch my likes and dislikes of this um, in the idea that this is not made for me. Um, it is technically a shonen show. It's a battle show, and there's an tournament arc coming up, and so on. But it is absolutely geared towards the youngest side of what is deemed the shonen audience. Um, and you can tell by the character designs of the images that have put up there, the art style, and so on.
Which is pretty dated.
Well, they've done a good job of. It's really sharp looking,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
the character designs, they haven't changed much from either the previous or the manga. These character designs are pretty much right out of the manga. Um, so it is skewed towards what I would say is a tween or young teen audience. Um, and that means for me, it was an absolute slog. Because it absolutely did not hold my interest at all. Now, the things that I liked, one, the quality of the animation, I think was pretty sharp. The Sakaga, I mean, some of the fights were actually pretty interesting. Some of them were, let's just have a blur and a huge bunch of people, flying by and in an almost static shot,
Like the not Bruce Lee fight.
So, of the things that I like, the not Bruce Lee episode, Pyron Lee,
Who becomes a young Chi.
and his not mentor Ip Man, Sean Mon or Showmon, was really good. It was the only episode that I felt something. Not Bruce Lee's realization of what he's been doing. So he's a spirit being run by Ren's sister Jun, and is just filled with rage because he never got to finish his Dashi Dao. I can't remember what they call it. It's basically Jeet Kune Do, but
Yeah.
they give it a different name. Before he died, and it's when he finally comes to some sort of realization about that and an acceptance of it, and his interaction with not Ip Man, it's pretty touching. So I like the fact that they can do that. I'm not too deep into any of the other spirits that they come up with because they don't do anything else like that, as far as I know. It's entirely possible that Amidamaru is in fact based on an actual samurai that existed,
Probably.
but I don't know who.
I did want to chime in. I just remember a couple other things that I did kind of appreciate
Okay.
about it. I actually watched the dub, and anyone who watched the original dub for kids, woo, this is leaps and bounds superior. Like,
Well, yeah, it was for kids. I mean,
yeah,
so that
like,
was the
for
licensor
example,
of the original when it came into the United States.
yeah, like they didn't try. They actually gave some nuance to Ren's performance, which 4Kids doesn't do that. Well, they didn't do that. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That's a point. So as I normally do, I do sub. And I thought the voice cast of the sub was fine. The Japanese voice cast, nothing really spectacular. I mean, they all did a good job. Let's see. What else did I particularly like about it? That's kind of really it. Because again, like I said, this isn't for me.
That's fair.
So it's very tough for me to say I liked a bunch of things. Unlike that previous show that I was talking about, unlike He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, um, there's not a whole lot for me to say I appreciate this even though I don't like it, beyond the quality of the artwork, and um, and that one episode with, not Bruce Lee and not Ip Man. So I'm kind of gonna have to. That wraps it up for me in this segment, um, which is a shame because it would be nice to
Yeah.
talk more about things that I like. But don't worry, I'll have my moment in this coming segment.
Yes.
So Byron, what
What didn't land?
what didn't land? What didn't you like? What didn't work for you?
The pacing mainly, because that's a problem with like a lot of like these what I like to call second chance anime. They feel like they have to like in order to tell the whole story they need to do it in a short amount of time. That was the same problem with Hyaku Hoshi Ingi, or the like what was originally Soul Hunter here in the US. They they had like more than enough time to tell a solid story, but they rushed through everything, and it just took me out of it. I didn't even finish that series.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't. I guess because it didn't appeal to me at all, I didn't find it rushed. I find it dragged. But again,
Well,
that's me.
a good example is like Ren's redemption arc. Like from what I can recall, it didn't. It took more than just like a couple episodes for him, like, oh, I'm an assassin. Oh, I don't want to kill no more. It's like he had to really like go through the like it just felt it felt unearned. His redemption to become to become a part of Yo's team.
Yeah. The I guess in this one they tease a little bit that it's because Yo has shown him something that was never a part of his life. Friendship and people who care for you. Um, and then but then they pretty much deny that, because clearly Jun has cared for him all along. But
Yeah,
anyway, um, but you're right. I get that. That part in particular, his start of his redemption arc, yeah, it wasn't earned. It's just like, oh boy, Yo's a cool guy or a good guy. I'm no longer interested in being a bad guy.
yeah. And I've seen way too many shonen anime where it takes way longer for that character archetype to change his thinking.
Yep. I'm just look at Bakugo. I mean, he's not a killer, but he hasn't even hardly changed his. And
Vegeta's a good example.
Vegeta.
Yeah,
Um,
it took like 3 or 4 story arcs in the overall Dragon Ball canon before he officially became a good guy.
yeah. Other things that you didn't like or that didn't work, that didn't
Uh,
land.
I know you like animation. I thought animation was cool, but this is just a nitpick as an artist. The colorization, like the digital colorization, took me back to like took me back to like classic Hellsing with how garish it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's an image of Yo, when he has evolved his powers up to a point where for some reason he wears a new uniform. So, but yeah, it's purple and yellow and orange and it's pretty crazy. Um, so yeah, good point. I can see that.
Yeah, again, that's just an artistic nitpick for me. Um, but yeah, pacing was definitely one of my bigger ones. I watched a couple. I did like skip ahead thanks to the interwebs to see a couple episodes, and the pacing is still breakneck. Like it's 30 episodes. I get that, but you don't have to. What like you'd figure an IP like this has some goodwill in the industry that they would at least be allowed to tell a 52 episode story.
Yeah. Although maybe they didn't want to, or maybe it was COVID. Maybe it's Maybelline. Um, COVID. This hit in April, which means its production was happening during COVID. So,
Yeah.
it's hard to say. But I get your point. Yeah. Anything else?
Uh, Not really. Like overall, yeah, those were my big ones.
All right. So again, big caveat: this isn't made for me. It's made for a younger audience. Um, and so a lot of this is stuff I really just don't like, and that's always been the case. I don't like this particular art style.
It's too angular.
It's too angular. This is Manta, who is also 13. He's in the same
Ugh.
class. Um, he's half Yo's height, and Yo isn't tall. I mean, he's a 13-year-old. But he's got this gigantic noggin, as does Yo's grandfather. And, this not quite chibi design, it just, if this was a straight up nothing but comedy, sure. But it's not. It's a shonen with characters who were designed literally just to be comic elements, and Mata is one of them.
Wait until you meet Choco Love.
Well, I can tell you this. This isn't going to be a big surprise coming to the end of the show. I will not be meeting whoever that character is. There is
He's
no
in, like
way.
he's actually he's the black kid in the credits.
There is no way, shape, or form I will watch another episode of this. So yeah, I don't like it, and I don't like that the character design and the general art style. I think the art is executed really well, but I don't like it. I don't like the look of it. I don't like the sort of, if you're gonna make it a comedy, make it a comedy. There is no way whatsoever that 13-year-old middle school boy is going to be wearing an open shirt with those bear claws or whatever necklace in school, which he does, and he's got another classmate that wears an open shirt. In a Japanese middle school?
Right.
Wrong. Ain't gonna happen. Anyway. And I get that, and that's one of the reasons why I say this isn't for me. That kind of easily identifiable, will never ever change his outfit until we change it permanently, look of a character is the hallmark of a younger, something that's targeted for a younger audience, so that the kids can more easily identify the look of the character. It's why Ash looks exactly the same. Well, of course, he's never aged, but still.
It's the power of the Pokemans.
The power of the Pokemans. They keep him from being 30-something and then still 11. I'm not a huge fan of most of the characterization. Again, getting back to Manta, the supposed comic relief. His comedy is being slapped or screaming like Asta from Black Clover. Like, okay. Again, it's a very childish comedy, and it's geared towards the audience that, it's intended for. But I'm just like, oh, God, yell some more, you little twerp. What else don't I particularly care for about this? I would say I found the pacing, while the original story, having seen the original, so you can talk about the pacing as compared to that. I haven't, and I found the pacing of the individual episodes glacial. When they get, this is another thing I don't like, is that this is so loaded with tropes. Now, granted, in 2001, maybe they weren't tropes at that point, but this is so loaded with tropes, it's not fun. Every time a character comes to some sort of realization, and it happens every episode, almost every episode is the exact same conceptual story beats. The details differ, and that's why I really like
friendship.
The power of friendship, baby. And that's why I like the not Bruce Lee episode, is because the details differed in a very interesting way to me. Um, but the story beat is exactly the same. There's a
Oh,
fight.
absolutely.
You know, looks like it's going bad. When Yo or whoever figures out what is really going on and what he needs to do, there is a minute and a half of commentary about that. Oh, I should have known that the why aren't you dead? If you're taking a minute and a half to have an internal monologue, okay, it's an internal monologue. Maybe it takes 10 seconds. You're in a fight with a guy with a giant spear or glaive or whatever that thing is. You're gonna die. But anyway.
Well, that's the thing about Shaman King. Death isn't the end.
Yeah, well, that's that's certainly true, because they are all working with spirits. Um, so I'm on the fence about whether to call this something I dislike or just sort of give it a shrug. And I'm really not somebody who wants to use the term cultural appropriation easily. I think it gets bounced around way too easily. I think that a lot of people don't
Are you talking about
realize
the Patch Tribe?
everything Native American about this thing, particularly the Patch Tribe, but the Seminoa. Yeah, I get that they are using it in a way that's positive for the most part.
I mean,
Although,
no, that was Horo's tribe, right?
yes, no,
Oh,
no, that he was Ainu.
okay, yes. I was making sure I got.
That was Little Aurora, the one at the end that tries to stop them from leaving Yanta Fe.
Yes.
Not Santa Fe, Yanta Fe. It's actually kind of funny. But so it continuously bothered me. I don't know that I would call it a cultural appropriation, but it just the way they presented native culture, I kept like cringing. I'm like,
I mean, I don't know if I have much of a ground to speak on it either way, but I think the fact that Native American characters played such a big role in the tournament definitely try to place them in a positive light.
yeah, no, and like I said, they don't present them as in anything other than a mostly positive light, and actually a fairly complex light, because we're getting to the point where we realize that maybe they aren't 100% positive. Um, and so that's not a problem for me. It's just that like Silva and his animalistic spirits and the way they are drawn when they finally manifest on the items, that it's just like okay. And
I will.
I'm sorry.
I will bring up one point, like one of your points about tonal whiplash, like the Tanuki and the Kitsune spirits that are introduced. Like they serve no real purpose, and they
Pocho and Kicho or put anyway. Yeah, the dumbest names for the dumbest spirits.
yes, absolutely dumbest spirits, and of course, because it's in Japanese anime, and they can get away with it, they're gonna have to do the full imagery of the Tanuki from folklore.
Yep.
With the giant sack.
Yes. Um, and that's another thing. So we'll talk about tone, but that is a problem with it, is tonal whiplash. It goes from moderately serious stakes combat, although you never think that anybody is really going to get seriously hurt, or at least on the good team. To
no one stays dead in this series,
and to terrible, in my mind, very childish comedy. Two things that are, and now granted, it doesn't have an awful lot that's terribly inappropriate. There's almost no ecchi elements in this, but when Ryu hits on Anna, we don't know how old Ryu is. he's way taller than anybody else, and one assumes he's at least high school, which means he's hitting on a 13-year-old.
I think he was 16.
Yeah, probably. You know, that makes sense. But that's the only kind of creepy thing in this, frankly, which is really surprising. But there are elements like that, or like showing the traditional tanuki with you know with the giant bouncy.
Wealth sack.
Yes, he's got his own beanbag chair. Put it that way. So yeah, tonally this thing just goes all over the place. I don't want to dump on it too much, because again, it's not made for me. There are people, who would, younger audience members who would, watch this and go, yeah, all right. Or a nostalgia play, which I assume is mostly what it is for you. It's like, yeah,
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
so this is an update of the other one. So I'm going to basically wrap up my dislikes there, because otherwise I'd just be sitting here going, oh, and then there's that.
Oh man, yours a cloud.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the tonal whiplash. So let's talk about tone. Let's talk about theme or message and so on. What tones are there in this? What message does it have? Boy, does it have one. Byron, take it away.
It's got a pretty generic message about like following your dreams, power, friendship. You know, basically one of the progenitors of what is modern shonen.
Yes.
And like I said before, tonal whiplash. Like the serious moments are always downplayed by any scene with Manta in it.
Yes.
And the whole he doesn't he doesn't really play that big of a role in most of the series as a whole.
Yeah. Frankly, he's comic relief and damsel in distress, except not a damsel. You know what? It just occurred to me, he looks like a chibi version of Armin.
Oh yes, he does.
And that role is kind of also filled by him. So I wonder if that, blonde page boy haircut thing is, again, a trope in Japanese anime.
It might be.
For characters who fill that role.
Fun fact about the Four Kids dub, Manta was named Morty.
All right. Win for them. There's a win for them.
I did have another thing I wanted to bring up from the dub. So, comparing the classic dub to the old dub, one character whose voice remained completely unchanged in both dubs was the Spirit Tokugeru. In the Four Kids dub, he was given a Spanish sounding accent. Where he thought like this. And for some reason, I guess because it sounded so, they thought it was cute, and because he looked because he has such a such a South American lizard-like appearance, they figured they would keep it.
Huh.
But he's from Japan. I mean, unless he was like a half Brazilian, half Japanese person.
I didn't get any Latin influence out of his look or even his voice. For me, I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was a weird choice. I don't.
Yeah, they do a lot of weird choices in this. I will say, before I get into tone and message, one of the other things is, so I skimmed the last 3 episodes by having them running. I didn't not have them go through the whole thing, but I turned it on to dub instead of sub so I could do some work on Nerd Caliber stuff. And that was a bad choice. Didn't.
Well, that was not that bad.
So I looked up the voice cast, and it's nobody I've ever heard of. Yeah, and frankly, in a lot of cases, it shows. Anna's voice in Japanese and her characterization of her voice in Japanese is no nonsense, tough, just her characterization in the English dub is
A nag.
way softer than that.
You think so? I just got her. I got more of a mean girl vibe from her.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Yes. More of a mean girl, not a tough, competent. You know, um, not particularly nice person, just somebody who's mean. Um, so yeah, so that's another thing I didn't like. But yeah, I agree. Tonally, it's all over the place. Um, at some moments, if they had the tone of that not Bruce Lee episode, which is episode 2, right?
Two
Or
or
3.
three.
Um,
Yeah, it was three.
it was 3. I would much more enjoy the rest of the show. That was tonally touching, smart, a better use of the memories and painful experiences that drove the characters to do what they did, and then also their redemption. Um, redemption. Ren's redemption. So Ren has killed, I think, by his own admission, hundreds of people
Yeah.
for his family, for the Tao family. Somebody much better and with better research skills needs to do a research paper on the cultural need to portray truly otherwise terrible people who have done horrible, horrible things as redeemable in Japanese culture because of some of the things that Japanese culture has done. So
Yeah.
somebody out there do that research.
I mean,
I want
if
to
you're
read
gonna
that.
do that redemption arc kind of thing, Zuko is like the line that's drawn. Like
Right.
the moment you take a life,
And Zuko is probably one of the best redemption arcs ever written. But it's also because it's believable because he hasn't done anything truly terrible. But yeah, so and then the message, it's it's the power of friendship. It's believe in yourself. That is one of the things that runs through. Eventually you find out is one of the most important things about a shaman. If you are uncertain about yourself, you lose your ability to use your mana to work with the spirit that is working with you. And so they really hammer that home. They hammer the power of friendship home like, wow.
it's like you get
Um,
it.
and yeah, so it's tropey. I don't think that's a trope that's ever going to go away. That's like what shonen anime particularly is, but anime in general. But yeah, it's so beat you over the head with the power of friendship until your brain accepts it. So those are the themes, the tones, the messages that are out there for Shaman King. I don't know because I haven't been able to see when they're going to drop any of the follow-on seasons. If you are
Probably around the holidays.
I would say so. There's absolutely no reason not to have it come up pretty quickly because, again, it's essentially done in Japan at this point. If it takes a while for Netflix to do the dub, so it was April to August, so 4 months. So we're looking at maybe early January or something. But they may have the team already continuing to work on the episodes as they're released, so it could be sooner than that. So if you liked it, more like Byron found it pretty good, kind of meh, but pretty good. Oh, yeah, as opposed to me. Then stay tuned to Netflix for when the rest of it drops. I will not be doing so, just because I like my time more than that. But having said that, that's it, folks. That's our wrap up. tomorrow night, Nerd Week Live. So many bits of news. A lot of it coming out of DC Fandom, of course, because that was Saturday. But there's other things that popped up as well. So tune in tomorrow night, 8 o'clock as well. Thursday night, we will be doing Night Books as our full fat spoiler chat, which is the Kristen Ritter starring vehicle where she plays a witch who traps a couple of kids in her library, or in her house, which has lots and lots of books in a library. And Netflix movie. And next Monday is No Nerd Caliber, and it will be our favorite science fiction worlds from any medium. Because next Thursday is Dune.
All right.
Next full fat spoiler chat, not this coming one, the one after that, is Dune, which hits theaters and streaming on Friday. So,
guess I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Likewise. So, folks, we'll see you at an upcoming show. Droppled VR, what's up? We're wrapping up our show. So that's what's up. Sorry you missed it. Byron, give us a goodbye.
Hey guys, Byron D0 signing out. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel yet again. It's BYRONDZERO. Make sure to subscribe.
Speaking of checking out, folks, before I sign off, please, if you get a chance, go to patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Check out our Patreon page. We have 3 tiers. Starts at whopping $2. Basically, what we do is we take this money and we use it to go to more cons and get more content to put up on our YouTube and our Facebooks and our other places and our website, nerdcaliber.com.
To entertain you all.
And if you are looking forward to Dune, Greg of Wonderlama Photography, his Dune review just went up earlier today. It is spoiler free. It is probably the best thing he's ever written. He really pulled out all of the very creative stops for this. And it's not going to be any... He loves the absolute heck out of it. So go check that out. Now, it's time for us to say goodbye. Please, folks, stay safe out there and enjoy the upcoming and continuing fall Halloween-y season. Woo! Stay safe, stay spoopy.